So, welcome to the BioRenewable Health Podcast. So, this podcast is more than just a conversation or a podcast, it's part of a bigger movement. Back in April of 2024, we launched the first ever BioRenewable Health Fair here in South Jersey, and we brought together some alternative health practitioners and businesses and people in the community who are interested in exploring holistic and sustainable solutions for health and wellness. And that event seemed to be just the beginning. Through this podcast, we're inviting alternative practitioners and wellness professionals and health conscious individuals from the public to join us as we grow this movement and see where it takes us. Together, we'll bring forward the solutions that empower people to take control of their health and solutions that are grounded in nature and science and practices that are outside the pharmaco insurance industry. So, what's our goal? Well, our goal is to educate, inspire, and connect. Whether you're looking for answers to your own health questions or ways to contribute to the growing community, this is the right place. Um, this podcast isn't about saying that modern medicine is bad in any way. It's about enhancing and sharing practical, natural, sustainable approaches to health, things that have been around for centuries. So, whether you're just starting a wellness journey or you're a practitioner that's been around for years, and there's a place for you here at this table. So, if you're a wellness professional or business owner, I want you to consider joining our BioRenewable Health Network. I'm hoping that together we can build a nice collaborative community that gathers and shares knowledge for the benefit of all involved. So, let's get it started. Um, the current kind of state of modern medicine is pretty much in everybody's mind now. Many of us feel that our healthcare system has kind of shifted away from care and to what we would call sick care. So the focus of that being managing symptoms rather than addressing root causes of illnesses. But this didn't happen overnight. So remember, back in history, we have to understand how we get to certain places to understand how to get ourselves back to being correct. And if you remember in the early 1970s, if you were around that long, President Nixon was being pressured to start a national health care system, and the public wanted it. But instead of moving toward a system run by the government focused on public health, he introduced the Health Maintenance Organization Act of 1973. And with that model, Kaiser Permanente from California decided to do it as a profit structure. And it focused on maximizing efficiency, which a good company would do, but it also profit margin maximized. And that's not necessarily what the patient wants. Um, Funny part was when Nixon decided to give his speech to sell this to the public, um, it was supposed to be about reducing healthcare costs and improving access for the public. But if you watch the footage of his speech, which Michael Moore highlighted in the documentary Sicko, his eyes were blinking so fast that you don't need to be a body language expert to know that this was dishonest. I would have loved to have played poker with Nixon if that was his body language. Um, but he wasn't presenting a solution for public health. He was kind of rolling out a profit driven model um, that defines much of what our healthcare system is now. And it wasn't like he was trying to screw over the American people. He believed what he was doing was right. But it almost seemed like he just saw an easy way out of what would have been a huge effort for the government to do. And he didn't have to take care of it. It was somebody else's problem. But that marked a turning point in healthcare, and it prioritized profits over people. And the consequences are kind of being felt now as we see big pharma and insurance companies just dominating healthcare. So that's why so many of us want to turn to alternative solutions. We recognize that this system is not built for healing. Um, BioRenewable Health Network is going to be aimed at kind of pushing back against that model just a little bit. We want to make a more natural and preventative and holistic option that's accessible to the public in the same way that modern medicine is accessible. So it's not about rejecting modern medicine. Listen, emergency rooms and hospitals and nurses and therapists, they all get involved in this to do well by the people. But they're constrained now by a profit driven industry. What we want to do is kind of complement that, which we already do. Um, but we want to prioritize the wellness and the prevention, which is not something that people normally do. We wait till we get sick and then we look for a cure. But I think this time and this era right now is prime for helping people to stand on their own 2 feet and say, yes, I can prevent these illnesses. So, some of the most powerful solutions to our health challenges in this day and age are actually found in nature. Our local communities and global traditions have stood the test of time, and we need to lean on them. So, right here in our community, we had a bunch of businesses um, that provided um, tools and techniques that enhance the body's natural ability, and we put them together into a health fair, the BioRenewable Health Fair. We then put it onto the web at biorenewablehealth.org. And we had over 40 vendors showcasing their experience, their expertise, their services, their goods, their wares. We had acupuncturists, nutritionists, CBD sellers. We had life coaches, yoga instructors, Reiki practitioners. We even had some organic farmers, mental health therapists. We had supplement makers, and so much more. You can visit the website and check them out if you weren't there. Um, and every vendor really brought something unique, and it highlighted the diversity and effectiveness that natural approaches have in the wellness space. These folks really demonstrate that real impactful health solutions exist outside of, modern medicine and pills. Wellness is also accessible. It's rooted in practice that align with the body's innate ability to heal. Um, and we're seeing that people are more interested in going back to these ancient traditions and practices, things like breathing techniques and plant-based medicines, but also philosophies that emphasize prevention over, cure. These are time-tested methods, but we're combining them now with modern advancements in technology and tools, and we can create that synergy to make it transform your life. So if you're a wellness business or professional and you want to join the BioRenewable Health Network, we can connect you to others in our community to help innovate even further. And we can share our knowledge, we can collaborate our efforts, we can expand access to solutions to other um, people in the public. It's not just about the individual businesses succeeding, although that's what a business network is about, but it's about creating a collective impact that's going to benefit everyone. Um, so if you're not a alternative business, and I usually put quotes around the word alternative because this is the original, the OG of medicine. But if you're not in the business, we still invite you to join the podcast and listen in, listen to the solutions and the experts, reach out to them when you have your questions, and also come to our health fair every spring. Spring is a time of renewal. So come and find out what's new and what's going to keep you healthy for the year to come. We're also going to hold events throughout the year. Um, so keep an eye out for those. You can keep an eye out for those by liking and subscribing to our podcast. But we will give you the information. It looks like we're going to end up having this as a weekly endeavor. There are a lot of people, there is a lot of information. So we should have this going every week. But more importantly, don't just like and subscribe to it. Tell your friends, tell your family. They have to listen up. They have to show up to the fair. You can't miss out on this information. This is life altering. And I think we're primed to start a movement here in South Jersey. So being well isn't really complicated, but it does require what's known as intentionality. Um, it doesn't just happen to you. You have to go out and make it happen. The good news is most of the components are simple to incorporate, and you don't need to overhaul everything all at once. You just focus on one thing, do it for a month, and see what kind of results you get. And if money is an issue, that's okay, because most of us can show you how to do these things pretty much free of cost. Most of what is done in holistic and natural manners is what's available in the environment. that was made for our bodies to absorb. Things like sunlight, oxygen, getting exercise. We teach you how to breathe. Nobody taught you how to breathe. You were born, you started breathing, and you just did it. But there are better ways of doing it. We'll teach you exercise, meditation, teaching you diet and fasting, but also making you aware of the bad things that are around in your environment so that we can reduce them. The first rule of medicine is do no harm. Well, then let's teach you what harm is around and how to remove it. And from what most of us believe, there has to be a component of spirituality. Now, you can have it take whatever form you want, but nurturing your spirit is just as important as caring for your body or your mind. Now, most of these practices are, you know, ancient traditions, but we've now found out through science that they are grounded in sound physiology, biology, and even quantum physics. For those of you who want to really get into it, we can take a delve into that, and that'll really blow your mind a little bit. Um, and I'll be honest, what some of what we're going to talk about here is going to seem like it's way out there already. But the truth is, a little change can make a big impact. The truth is, these methods, they've worked for years because they align us with our natural rhythms of the human body. They align us with the natural rhythms of the earth. Um, to think about it, our world has changed at these breakneck speeds with innovations, technology, automations, robotics now. Even just traveling around the planet is something that should never have been a natural evolution to just the human body. We invented airplanes, and that has changed our world dramatically. But the human body hasn't really evolved that much, and it can't keep up. Most of these advancements are actually wreaking havoc on our health, especially through electromagnetic pollution, unnatural light. These things overload our system and they're contributing to our chronic stresses, our chronic diseases, and cancers, things like that. But the good news is we're getting tools to combat these threats, whether it's through reliving our ancient ancestries and our ancient practices, or whether we're using new tech. So on this podcast, we'll not only highlight the things that are harming you, but actionable ways of stopping the damage, and then give you the tools you need, whether it's a practice or a technique or a tool to repair what damage has already been done. One of the best pieces of advice I ever heard was in martial arts. It said the best way not to get punched is don't be there. And that applies here. Let's start by removing all these sources of harm, but acknowledging what harm is being done by them. So wellness should be for everyone. Health should be for everyone. So it's not about subscribing to one particular path or one philosophy of health or wellness. It's, keto diet or a vegan diet isn't for everyone, but they both work, and we'll show you how and why. But we want to include everybody. We want to collaborate. The more information we have, the better we're going to do. So that's why we want to create this BioRenewable Health Network. We want to create this BioRenewable Health Podcast to connect all those wellness professionals, the businesses, the individuals who are passionate about making a difference and finding these solutions with the public who's looking for these answers. This isn't just about individual businesses, although the network is specific for the individual businesses, but it's about creating a collective benefit for the community. Through the network, we want to build a space where the knowledge is shared. We want to inspire people to act. We want to offer real science-backed solutions that are for better health. So on this podcast, we're going to talk about everything. Nothing is off the table except for traditional pill medicine, because they have their own networks, they have their own podcasts. And for a lot of you, this might seem unconventional, but it's because you haven't been around it, you haven't been taught it, or your family hasn't passed that information down to you. So if you're ready to be a part of this movement, join us. You can go to biorenewablehealth.org and learn more about it. You can visit us at the BioRenewable Health Fair. That will be every spring, because spring is a renewal. So renew your life force, renew your energy. And then we'll have events throughout the year that we'll keep you posted on. We want this to be the go-to resource for connecting practitioners, services, tools to the public who's looking for them, and give them actionable steps and processes to improve your wellness without being so overwhelming or life-changing. We want it to change your life, but we don't want it to feel like it's an impossible task. I always compare Richard Simmons, taking on the task of working with someone who has gotten morbidly obese. And his first step every time was, I want you to take your sneakers and put them by the front door. And that was it. That was day number one. Because he understood that with a psychological positive nature, you can go about changing your physical life. And then if you tried to do any more than that, you failed. So we want people to come. We want you to learn. We want you to explore. We want you to go out of your comfort zone and try something different and see if it makes the difference. So tell your friends, tell your family. Word of mouth is the best way to spread these messages. Tune in. Hopefully, we create a nice little effect of awareness and empowerment to let people know that it's not that hard, it's not expensive, and it's easy to do, and it's life changing. So thanks for listening to the first ever BioRenewable Health Podcast. And remember, the journey to wellness is going to start with you taking the first step, and that's getting informed and connected, which is what you're going to do right here. So I'll see you soon.